war between humans and the alien empire had gone on for years. Battles had shaken planets, fleets had burned in the void, and both sides had lost countless lives. The aliens believed they had seen every kind of weapon the humans could make. They had faced human missiles, cannons, laser turrets, and even desperate tricks like ramming ships. Nothing surprised them anymore. Or so they thought. One cold night on the edge of a ruined colony, a squad of alien soldiers discovered a strange human crate. It was half buried under rubble, its surface burned and dented. The aliens dragged it out, expecting to find explosives or hidden mines. Their commander, a tall officer with scarred armor, barked at his soldiers to be careful. With tense hands, they broke the crate open. Inside they found not bombs, not rifles, not even food. Instead, the crate was filled with strange objects. They looked ordinary, even foolish. Some were brightly colored. Some were shaped in ways no weapon should be shaped. The soldiers stared in confusion. "This?" one young soldier said, holding up the object in his clawed hands. "This is human garbage," the squad laughed. Some tossed the objects in the air like toys. One soldier even mimicked the way humans carried rifles, pretending the thing in his hands was some kind of blaster. Laughter echoed through the broken streets, but one alien did not laugh. He was older, his scales cracked with age, his eyes sharp. He stepped forward and took one of the strange objects in silence. He turned it over slowly, studying every detail. Then he gave a low growl. "Put them down," he said. The others frowned. "Why, these are worthless. Humans must be desperate." The old soldier shook his head. "No, I have fought humans longer than you have. I have seen them turn metal scraps into deadly traps. I have seen them make weapons from nothing but sand and wires. Do not laugh at this. If the humans built it, it serves a purpose." The squad grew quiet, their laughter fading. The old soldier's words carried weight, for he was a veteran of the first battles against humanity. His scars were proof of what humans could do when underestimated. Still, curiosity burned in the young ones. "But look at it," one said. "It does not shoot. It does not cut. It does nothing." The commander stepped closer, glaring at the crate. "If humans hid this, it must have meaning. We will take it to the War Council. Let the generals decide." So the aliens carried the crate back to their base. Along the way, whispers spread. More soldiers peeked into the crate, shaking their heads, some laughing, others uneasy. By the time they reached the fortress, half the camp had heard about the ridiculous human weapon. In the Great War Hall, under the glowing banners of the Empire, the crate was set before the alien generals. One by one, the strange objects were placed on the table. The room filled with murmurs. "This is a joke," one general said, tapping the object with his claw. "Humans mock us. Or they are insane," another sneered. "To waste resources on this." But the oldest general leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. He remembered something. Rumors from earlier wars. Stories from soldiers who had faced humans on distant moons. Tales of humans using strange, simple things in battle. Things that should not have worked, yet somehow did. "Do not be so quick to laugh," he said slowly. "Humans fight with their minds. They build traps not just for the body, but for the mind itself. What looks harmless may not be harmless at all." The hall fell silent. Every alien could feel a strange chill. The objects on the table no longer looked so harmless. One young officer forced a laugh to break the silence. "Then let us test them," he said. "If humans believe these foolish things are weapons, let us prove their weakness." The generals agreed. They would test the human weapon. But as the soldiers carried the crate away for testing, the old general's words lingered. He spoke softly, almost to himself, but everyone heard him. "Every time we laugh at humans, we bleed. Remember that." That night in the fortress, many soldiers could not sleep. The crate sat in the testing chamber, waiting. The strange human objects lay silent and still, but to the humans who had sent them, silence was the most dangerous sound of all. The alien fortress was silent the next morning, except for the buzz of machines in the testing chamber. Guards stood at every corner, watching nervously as technicians prepared the crate of human objects. The air felt heavy, as if the strange weapons themselves carried a hidden danger. The commander entered, his armor polished, his eyes cold. Behind him, the old veteran walked slowly, leaning on his staff. He had insisted on being present. He wanted to see with his own eyes what trick the humans had planted. On the table lay the first object. It looked so ordinary, so weak that even the guards smirked. One young officer whispered, "This cannot be a weapon. It is just Nonsense, the commander raised a claw. Silence. Begin the test. The technicians placed the object inside a small testing field. The shield around it glowed faintly, ready to contain any explosion or radiation. They tapped on the controls. For a long moment, nothing happened. The object just sat there, harmless, ridiculous. The soldiers began to laugh again. The humans are fools, one said. They waste metal and paint for toys. But then, something unexpected happened. The lights flickered. The machines monitoring the object began to glitch. The shield barrier crackled. Strange signals flooded the room. The technicians froze, staring at their controls. What is happening? The commander barked. We do not know, one technician stammered. It is sending out patterns. Simple but strange. Our machines cannot block them. The old veteran leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Patterns. Always patterns. Humans fight with symbols and signals. Do not dismiss this. The object still did nothing, yet everything in the chamber felt different. The soldiers who had laughed a moment ago now shifted uncomfortably. A few pressed their hands against their heads. The patterns from the object weren't strong, but they wormed their way into the mind. Shut it down, the commander ordered. The technicians scrambled, switching off the field. The object fell silent. The machine steadied, the lights returned. But the room was no longer filled with laughter. It was filled with fear, the commander hissed. Test the next one. They placed another strange human creation inside the chamber. Again, it seemed harmless. But when activated, this one released sound. Not a weapon's roar, not a scream of destruction, just a simple repeating rhythm. It echoed strangely in the hall, bouncing off the walls. Some soldiers laughed again, but their laughter broke quickly. The rhythm was simple, but it stuck in their heads. The beat grew louder in their thoughts, like invisible fingers tapping on their skulls. Soon the soldiers' breathing began to match the rhythm. One by one, they tapped their claws, moving without realizing. The old veteran growled. Do you see? They are controlling us, slowly, silently. The commander's face twisted with anger. Destroy it. Blasters fired. The object shattered. The sound stopped. But even broken, the rhythm still pulsed in their heads, as if memory itself carried the weapon forward. The soldiers looked at one another with uneasy eyes. The commander snarled. These are tricks, not weapons. Tricks cannot kill us, the old veteran answered quietly. Tricks kill armies. Tricks break minds before bodies fall. That is the human way. The commander ignored him. He ordered more tests. One by one, the objects were placed in the chamber. Each time, something strange happened. Machines failed. Guards grew restless. Even high-ranking officers found themselves unable to concentrate. The human creations were not bombs, but they attacked in another way. Through confusion, through distraction, through the mind. By the end of the day, the chamber was filled with broken scraps and the soldiers were shaken. Some whispered that the humans were cursed. Others said the objects carried hidden spirits. No one laughed anymore. That evening, the War Council gathered again. The commander reported the tests. He tried to make the humans sound weak, foolish, but the fear in his eyes betrayed him. The generals argued, "They are toys," one shouted. "They cannot stand against our fleets." "But they do something," another argued. "Something we do not understand. Already our soldiers are nervous. Tomorrow they may refuse to fight." The old veteran stood slowly. His voice was calm but heavy. "You do not see the danger. Humans do not need stronger guns. They only need us to doubt. They only need us to laugh because laughter breaks into fear. Fear spreads like fire, and then we lose." The council fell into silence. The alien leaders stared at the fragments of the broken human objects lying on the table. Harmless, foolish, ridiculous, and yet somehow powerful. Far away in the dark of space, human fleets prepared for their next battle. Their soldiers carried the same strange weapons with them, smiling, knowing the aliens could never truly resist them. The war was about to change. The alien fleet gathered in orbit above a burned world. War banners glowed on their ships, engines rumbled, and soldiers prepared for another clash with humanity. The commanders were confident. They believed their numbers and firepower would crush the humans once and for all. Yet deep inside, some soldiers felt unease. Whispers of the ridiculous human weapon had spread through the ranks. The tests from the fortress were now told like ghost stories. Machines failing. Soldiers hearing rhythms they could not forget. Minds breaking without bloodshed. The commanders tried to silence the rumors, but fear is hard to kill once planted. When the human fleet finally appeared, the battlefield lit up with fire. Human ships were smaller, weaker, patched with scars of many battles, but they came forward with steady courage, their formation tight, their guns ready. The first exchange of fire shook space. Alien cannons roared, human missiles streaked, shields flared. For a time, it looked like every other battle. The aliens pressed forward with confidence, and then the humans released their weapon. At first, nothing seemed different. Alien radars picked up strange signals, simple rhythms, harmless symbols, odd frequencies that looked like mistakes. Commanders laughed over the comms. This is their secret weapon? Noise? But then the noise began to spread. Screens flickered. Orders glitched. Alarms blared without cause. The alien fleet's communication lines filled with strange echoes. Soldiers began to hear the same rhythm that had haunted the test chamber. On one alien cruiser, the captain tried to give an order, but his crew was humming the rhythm without even knowing it. His anger rose, but the sound stuck in his head too. Soon he tapped his claws on the console in time with the beat. His words faltered. His command chain broke. Across the fleet, similar scenes unfolded. Pilots froze at controls. Engineers argued over false alarms. Gunners misfired weapons. Squads panicked as they thought their own systems were sabotaged. The humans had turned the battlefield into chaos, not with bombs, but with patterns. The old veteran, watching from the command deck of the flagship, felt his heart sink. He had warned them. Now he saw the truth. Humans had turned something ridiculous into a storm that struck deeper than lasers ever could. The commander of the flagship roared in fury. Ignore the noise. Focus on the enemy. But how could they? Every signal, every message carried the human patterns. The rhythm was in their ears and their heads crawling under their skin. Their discipline shattered. Their unity dissolved. Meanwhile, the humans pressed forward. Their weapons struck with precision. Every alien mistake became a human advantage. One ship lost power because its crew abandoned their posts. Another ship fired blindly at allies, thinking they were enemies. Whole wings of fighters drifted off course, unable to follow orders. From the human side, the soldiers smiled grimly. They knew the weapon worked not by destroying ships, but by destroying order. The aliens had always been stronger, but strength meant nothing without control. In the middle of the chaos, one alien officer tried to rally his crew. "We are warriors of the Empire. Resist their tricks," he shouted. But as he spoke, the rhythm grew louder in his mind. He faltered. His voice shook. And then he whispered the words every commander feared. I cannot fight this." The flagship shook as human torpedoes struck its shields. The commander bellowed orders, but half his crew did not respond. Some sat frozen, some argued, some simply hummed the rhythm like a cursed chant. The old veteran turned to him, his voice quiet but firm. "You see now, this is the weapon of humanity. They do not fight our ships. They fight our hearts." The commander's claws tightened around his chair. Rage burned in his chest, but even he felt the rhythm in his blood. He knew they were losing. All across the stars, alien ships began to fall back. Some retreated in panic, some surrendered without firing again. A few even destroyed themselves, unable to bear the invisible attack. The mighty alien fleet, built with centuries of power, was crumbling against the most ridiculous weapon in the galaxy. The humans did not cheer. They fought in silence, their faces grim, their hearts steady. They knew the war was not over. But they also knew something greater. The aliens would never laugh at human weapons again. By the end of the battle, the humans stood victorious. Alien wrecks drifted in orbit. Survivors fled, broken not by fire but by fear. The old veteran, watching his empire retreat, whispered to himself, "Every time we laugh at humans, we bleed, and now we drown." The battlefield was silent once more, but the rhythm lingered in every alien mind. A reminder of humanity's most dangerous gift, the ability to turn the ridiculous into victory. The alien empire reeled from the defeat. News of the battle spread faster than light, carried by frightened survivors. Soldiers whispered that the humans had cursed them with sounds and patterns, with strange objects that no fire could destroy. On every world, morale cracked. Even commanders who had never faced humans now feared them, but the aliens wanted answers. They needed to know how such a foolish thing could destroy fleets. So in a dark prison carved beneath a broken moon, the Empire brought in a human prisoner. He was young, scarred from battle, but his eyes burned with the same stubborn fire every human carried. The alien interrogator stepped forward. He was tall, armored in steel, his claws sharp. He set one of the captured human objects on the table between them. "Explain this," he demanded. "It looks worthless. It does nothing, and yet, it breaks our fleets. What is it? How does it work?" The human only smiled. His lips were cracked, but his grin was steady. "You wouldn't understand," he said softly. The interrogator slammed his claw down, denting the table. "We command stars. We rule empires. Do not mock us with riddles. Tell me the truth." The human leaned back, his chains rattling. His voice was calm, almost casual. "The truth is simple. You think war is about who has the bigger gun. You think strength means ships and bombs. But humans know something different. War is about the mind." The alien narrowed his eyes. "The mind?" "Yes," the human said. "We don't fight your ships. We fight your trust, your unity, your will. That is where wars are really won." He tapped the object with his finger. "This is not just noise. It is a story. It is a symbol. It is a joke. You laugh, but when you laugh, your guard falls. When your guard falls, fear enters. And once fear is inside, it spreads faster than fire." The interrogator's breath came slow and heavy. He wanted to deny the human's words, but he remembered the battle. He remembered soldiers humming without knowing. He remembered officers panicking at shadows. The human's grin widened. "Do you know why it works? Because we made it for you. We studied you. We learned what you cannot ignore. Your ears, your eyes, your pride. You cannot resist. Even when you try, it's already in your head. That's why it works," the alien growled, slamming the table again. But this time the anger felt hollow. Deep inside, he feared the human was right. Meanwhile, far across space, in a hidden bunker on a human colony, the real secret was being explained to new recruits. A grizzled officer stood before a group of young soldiers. In his hands, he held one of the ridiculous-looking objects. "Listen well," the officer said. "This is not just a weapon. This is a tool of chaos. We don't need to kill every alien soldier. We only need to make them doubt. We only need to break their rhythm. Once their minds are shaken, their fleet falls apart." He set the object on the table. The recruits leaned forward, eyes wide. "The aliens are strong, yes, but they are rigid. They follow rules, chains of command, strict orders. We humans, we are different. We think sideways. We fight with madness. That is our strength." He looked each soldier in the eye. "Never forget they fear our unpredictability more than our guns. That is why this works. That is why we work." The recruits nodded, understanding. For the first time, they saw the truth. The strange weapon was not about firepower, it was about identity. It was about being human. Back in the prison, the alien interrogator paced in silence. The human sat still, his smile never fading. Finally, the interrogator spoke in a low voice. "What do you call it? This weapon of yours?" The human tilted his head. His grin turned almost playful. "We call it ridiculous, because no one ever takes it seriously, until it's too late." The alien stared at him, stunned. He realized the trap. The humans had chosen something that looked foolish on purpose, something their enemies would laugh at. And in that laughter, the Empire had already lost. The prisoner leaned forward, his voice soft but sharp as a blade. "That is our secret. We win not because we are stronger, but because we are impossible, and no empire, no matter how big, can fight the impossible." The chamber fell silent. The interrogator could hear only the sound of his own breathing. For the first time in his long career, he felt truly afraid. The human had told him the truth, and the truth was worse than any weapon of steel or fire. The alien empire had always been proud, unshaken by any enemy. For centuries, their fleets ruled the stars, but after the last battle, everything changed. Rumors of the ridiculous human weapon spread like fire through the empire. Soldiers whispered about it in barracks. Pilots muttered about it in hangars. Even generals hardened by war spoke of it in hushed voices. The strange part was that no one truly understood the weapon. Some said it created sounds that drilled into the mind. Others swore it spread invisible signals that made machines betray their masters. A few even claimed it was cursed, filled with human spirits that haunted ships. Every story grew darker, and with every retelling, fear grew stronger. On one frontier world, a squad of alien soldiers refused to march into battle. Their commander roared at them, but they stood frozen. One whispered, "What if the humans use it here? What if it's already working on us?" Soon their fear spread across the garrison. An entire outpost collapsed without a shot fired. On another ship, pilots strapped into their fighters. But when the signal of battle came, half of them froze. The rhythm echoed in their heads, though nothing had been played. The fear of the weapon was enough to bring the memory back. The fleet launched late, and in space, hesitation meant death. The Empire tried to silence the rumors. Propaganda broadcasts declared, "The human toy is powerless. Do not fear." But the more they denied it, the stronger the whispers became. Soldiers asked themselves, if it truly is powerless, why do our leaders fear it enough to speak of it? In the War Council, panic spread among the generals. Maps of star systems lit up with red signs: desertions, retreats, mutinies. Armies that once marched in perfect order now broke apart when they only heard of the human weapon. "This cannot go on," one general growled, slamming his fist on the table. "Our empire is dissolving from within." Another general, his scales pale, answered, "It is already too late. Our soldiers are poisoned with fear. Even if the weapon is nothing but tricks, it is stronger than our fleets. Stronger than us." The old veteran, who had seen humans longer than any of them, spoke quietly from the shadows of the hall. "I warned you. Humans do not need to destroy our bodies. They destroy our certainty. Once that is gone, an empire has already fallen." The room fell silent. Even the proudest generals could not deny the truth. Meanwhile, human fleets advanced. They did not even need to fight every battle. Sometimes they only dropped crates of the ridiculous weapon onto enemy worlds. No bombs, no soldiers, just the objects themselves scattered in city streets. The results were terrifying. On one planet, civilians fled their homes screaming that the weapon was active. Shops closed, markets emptied, riots broke out. The humans never fired a shot, yet the planet collapsed into chaos within days. On another world, alien soldiers found a single human object lying at the gate of their fortress. No sound, no signal, just sitting there. By nightfall, half the soldiers deserted. The rest locked themselves inside, too afraid to move. Fear had become the strongest weapon of all. The Empire's emperor called a secret meeting. His voice trembled with barely hidden rage. "We are the rulers of the galaxy, and now our armies flee from toys. Tell me, how do we fight this madness?" No one answered. Finally, the old veteran spoke. "There is only one way. We must capture the human who made this. Only then will we understand. Only then can we break their secret." The emperor leaned forward, his eyes burning. "Then find him. Bring him to me alive. If we do not stop this weapon, our empire is finished." And so the hunt began. Across the stars, special units were dispatched, their orders clear: find the human inventor at any cost. Entire fleets shifted their focus from battle to search, but the humans already knew. They wanted the Empire to chase shadows. Every search drained resources. Every failed attempt made the aliens look weaker. Among the humans, officers whispered with grim smiles. "They are panicking," one said. "They waste fleets chasing one man while our armies move forward." Another replied, "That's the beauty of it. The weapon works even when it is not used." They fight their own fear now. Back in the Empire, cracks widened. Mutinies grew common. Whole garrisons abandoned their posts. Commanders who tried to enforce discipline found themselves betrayed by their own troops. The once mighty Empire was bleeding without a single human bomb, and through it all the rhythm lingered. Soldiers tapped it without knowing. Officers dreamed of it in their sleep. It was not just a sound anymore. It had become a shadow that lived in every alien mind. The old veteran knew the truth. He whispered it one night as he stared at the stars. "This is not war as we know it. This is something else. The humans have already won. We just have not admitted it yet." The alien empire stood at the edge of collapse. Their fleets were still vast, their armies still countless, but their confidence was broken. Fear had sunk its claws into every soldier, every officer, every citizen. The humans had turned something laughable into a weapon so powerful that it infected the empire from within. But the humans were not finished. They had only just begun. The next phase of their plan was not to fight head-on, but to spread the weapon even deeper. Small human ships began slipping behind enemy lines. They carried no heavy bombs, no mighty cannons. Instead, they carried crates of the strange objects. Wherever they landed, whether in cities, fortresses, or supply stations, they left behind just a handful of the ridiculous weapons. The effect was always the same. On one mining colony, workers found the strange human objects scattered in the tunnels. At first they laughed nervously, trying to kick them aside. But soon, strange sounds echoed through the caverns and shadows seemed to move in rhythm with the beat. Within hours, the miners fled, abandoning the colony without a single human soldier lifting a finger. On another world, a human commando team dropped the objects in a marketplace, then vanished. The aliens gathered, staring at them in confusion. Some mocked, some panicked, but soon the entire crowd began to argue. Fear spread faster than words. By nightfall, riots consumed the city. The Empire lost control of another world, without a battle. The alien emperor raged in his throne room, his voice shaking the palace walls. "How can toys undo an empire?" he shouted. His generals bowed their heads, unable to answer. The old veteran finally spoke. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the chamber like a blade. "Because it is not the toys that undo us, it is us. The humans planted fear and we watered it ourselves." The emperor glared at him. But deep inside, he knew it was true. Meanwhile, human commanders met in secret bunkers, their maps glowing with red marks of alien systems falling apart. They shared grim smiles. "They are chasing shadows," one officer said. "Every crate we drop spreads panic. Every rumor weakens them more than our guns ever could." Another officer leaned forward. "We must push now, strike while their empire trembles, show them we are not just unpredictable, we are unstoppable." So the humans pressed harder. Their fleet struck at weakened points. Their soldiers moved like ghosts, leaving chaos wherever they went. They never needed to fire the weapon directly anymore. The mere threat of it was enough. On the front lines, alien troops trembled at every sound. A simple hum, a tapping noise, even a strange shape on the ground made them panic. Soldiers abandoned fortresses thinking the weapon was near. Whole units surrendered before the humans even attacked. The aliens tried to adapt. They ordered soldiers to block their ears, to ignore rhythms, to destroy any object that looked human-made. But fear is not so easily defeated. Once something lives in the mind, no armor can protect against it. The turning point came in the Battle of Zarine's Ring. The aliens had gathered a massive fleet, hoping to finally crush the humans with sheer numbers. Their ships filled the orbit of the giant planet, their weapons locked on. They believed that if they could win here, the tide would turn back in their favor. The humans arrived with fewer ships, smaller and weaker as always. But as the battle began, the humans released something new, not just crates this time. They broadcast the rhythm directly into the void of space. Every alien ship, every soldier, every captain heard it. At first it was faint, like an echo, but soon it grew louder, pulsing through their minds, through their very bones. The fleet wavered. Crews hesitated. Officers shouted for order, but their voices were drowned out by the invisible beat. One by one, alien ships began to break formation. Some fired wildly. Some turned and fled. Some simply shut down, their crews unable to fight. The human fleet moved through them like a knife through water. Their shots struck with perfect timing, each alien mistake opening a path forward. By the end, the mighty fleet of Zarine's Ring was in ruins. Not because the humans had stronger guns, but because the Empire had collapsed under its own fear. On the flagship of the aliens, the commander stood frozen, his claws shaking on the console. He whispered, barely audible, "This is not war. This is madness. They have turned madness into a weapon." The old veteran standing beside him closed his eyes. "No, this is humanity, and this is the turning point." From that day, the Empire no longer marched forward. It retreated, slowly then faster until every system was falling back, trying only to survive. The humans had shown the galaxy something terrifying. The most dangerous weapon was not fire or steel, but the human mind itself. The alien empire was broken, its fleets scattered, its armies retreating, its proud generals silenced by fear. Everywhere the humans advanced. Not with firestorms, not with planet killers, but with the same ridiculous weapon that had turned into legend. But the Emperor still clung to one hope: capture the human who made it. If they could understand the mind behind the madness, perhaps they could stop it. Perhaps they could claw their way back from ruin. So they sent hunters. Armies scoured planets. Fleets chased human convoys. Traps were laid in the void. Finally, in the ruins of an old station, they caught him. To their shock, the human was not a great general. He was not a brilliant scientist or a decorated commander. He was young, small, and almost ordinary. His clothes were torn, his hands rough with work, his eyes calm but sharp. The emperor demanded he be brought before him. In the grand throne hall of the empire, the human stood in chains, a tiny figure surrounded by towering alien guards. The emperor's voice thundered across the chamber. You are the one who made this weapon? You destroyed fleets, crushed worlds, broke my empire with toys? Explain yourself. The human only smiled faintly. I didn't destroy your empire. You did that yourselves, the emperor roared, slamming his claws into the throne. Do not mock me, creature. Tell me the truth. The human tilted his head. The truth is simple. The weapon was never meant to kill. It was meant to remind you that we are not like you. You plan, you calculate, you march in perfect lines. We are chaos. We are creativity. We are ridiculous. The old veteran, standing beside the throne, stepped forward. His voice was low, heavy with the weight of many battles. Tell me, human, why does it work? How can something so foolish undo an empire built on iron? The human looked at him, and for a moment there was almost respect in his eyes. Because you believed strength meant control. But control is a cage. When something does not fit inside it, you panic. You break, and we are born outside the cage, the emperor hissed. So this weapon, it was planned? Designed to strike our minds? The human chuckled softly. Planned? No, that's the best part. It wasn't even supposed to be a weapon. It started as a joke, a game, a piece of human nonsense. We used it because it was cheap, because it made us laugh. We never imagined it would terrify you this much. The hall froze. The alien stared at him, unable to believe. The weapon that had shattered their empire had not been forged by genius or strategy. It had been an accident. A joke. The emperor's claws trembled. Rage and disbelief burned in his eyes. Lies! You expect me to believe my empire felt a chance? But the old veteran whispered almost to himself. It makes sense. That is why it is unstoppable. It was not made to fit any logic. It was made by humans who twist madness into strength. The human smiled wider now, his chains clinking as he lifted his head proudly. That's the real weapon. Not these objects, not these rhythms. The weapon is us. The human mind. We turn mistakes into victories. We turn weakness into strength. We turn jokes into legends. That is why you cannot win. The emperor slumped back in his throne, silent. For the first time in his reign, he felt powerless. All his fleets, all his weapons, all his centuries of order had fallen to something so small, so absurd, that it could not even be called a weapon. The human leaned forward, his voice steady, his words cutting like a blade. You lost the moment you laughed. Because while you laughed, we learned. While you mocked, we prepared. And while you dismissed us, we found the one truth you will never accept. The emperor's voice cracked. And what is that truth? The human's eyes burned bright as stars. The most dangerous weapon in the galaxy is the human mind. The throne hall was silent. Even the guards did not move. The old veteran closed his eyes as if sealing the words into memory. The emperor, once unshakable, lowered his head in defeat, and the human, small and scarred but unbroken, stood taller than any alien in the chamber. He had no guns, no army, no power but the truth of his people. Yet in that moment everyone in the hall knew. The empire was already finished. It had been destroyed not by fire, but by something far worse. Ridiculous human creativity.